Welcome to The Wing, the emotional and financial health check you never knew you needed.
Hi ladies, welcome to another episode of The Wing. And this time I should say actually hello ladies and gents, because I feel like we might have a few of our male listeners tuning into this particular podcast based on what I'm going to title it. And that is because we are having our first ever male guest on the podcast. He might be our first, might be our last, I'm not entirely sure. But we've heard a lot about him. I've spoken about him in detail, the good, the bad, the everything in between. And it is my husband, Jake. Hi, Jake.
Hello. How you going there, Dal?
I'm good there, Dal. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Wing as a very special guest. It did take us about 37 minutes to organise this connection because we are in the same house and Jake apparently doesn't know how to work a laptop. So
yeah,
that's where we're at.
Trying to log on to the meeting, dialing in. Then I realised I was on my calculator. So anyways, I think we're going to be okay from here. Onwards and upwards.
Okay, I have faith, sort of.
Kind of say I'm really excited about being here because I just really eager just to share our dirty laundry in like one of the most public platforms you possibly can. So let's rip in.
I can't help but feel like that was a tiny little dig at my podcast, but I'm just going to let that one slide. And,
no digs. No digs
here.
No
digs. Okay. All right. Well, I've dug on you a few times, so I guess I probably deserve it. No, look, in all seriousness, we do have some structured questions that we're going to ask Jake because it takes two to tango. And I've been pretty open about my behavior, feelings, emotions, lack of regulating those emotions in the postpartum period, during pregnancy, and even well before that, when if you go back to the very first episode that I launched, which was about cleaning Jake's entire house out and basically taking over it, making it my own and selling all these things. So I think it'll be good to hear from Jake's perspective, his interpretation of a few things. We're mostly going to be talking about pregnancy, having kids, and what that's been like for Jake as well. So I'll start off with the first question for you, Dal. When we first found out I was pregnant, what was your initial reaction and what did you picture this next chapter to look like for you as a dad?
Firstly, before I answer that question, when you say getting rid of my stuff, are you referring to when you put my vacuum out in the rain? Is that the way you're talking about?
Correct. And I did, in fact, record that live on a podcast and I published it.
Good. Very good. Well, I'm glad that that's out there because I just want to get that on the record.
I'm sorry about the vacuum, Jake.
It's all right. It's fine. I only just bought it, but it's okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
I might have left that bit out. Sorry, back to
it. What was my initial reaction? Have you told the story about how I actually found out for the first time?
No, I haven't, because it was a bit of a dud moment and I should have shared it. Anyway, you go.
I'll share it because, yeah, I guess it's kind of funny because you kind of expect these moments to be, I don't know, like really big. It just like felt like a really small moment in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, we were away in the Gold Coast and we were at a conference. I was at the conference and Katey was at the hotel, and Katey sends me a text message saying, "Hey, I'm just in the hotel having a bath with the door open." And I sort of read the message and thought, "Oh, it's a bit weird, but okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll see you soon." So then, I come in the door and I walk into the room and I just walk straight into the bathroom and I'm like, "Hey, Dale, like, how's your day? Da da da." And I can just Katey's just in the bath, just all ginger and like, "Did you see when you walked in?" I'm like, "Did I see what?" Katey's like, why don't you go back and just walk back through the room and just see what you see?" So I'm like, "What?" Turn around and then I kind of walk back into the room and then on the table I'm noticing all these things. And the first thing I think I actually noticed was the socks, the little baby socks. And there was some poppy seeds and a baby book and things. And I just remember being like, I guess shocked more than anything else. I'm like, "Oh, holy, this is actually happening." Like, wow. And then it was just this, we were like far out, like we're away for another 2 nights with all of our colleagues and I love a drink and so does Katey. How the hell are we going to get through this, this weekend without anybody knowing? But obviously, yeah, after you have a couple of kids, you kind of you start to lose that, not having the need to keep it all, pent up as a big secret. But certainly, when you're having your first, that's all you want to do. Well, it's all you've been ingrained to do anyway. So I think excitement and shock is probably the best way to describe that.
And mind you, I had done a pregnancy test that morning and found out Jake had already gone to the conference. So, and he's there with obviously a heap of colleagues, firstly, a heap of friends. My dad was there. There was just, we were just with everybody for this chunk of time. And so I found out in the morning and I thought, well, I can't text him because he's going to be stressed all day, like figuring out, oh, I've got to get back and trying not to have a reaction in front of anybody else. So that I can't call him because that would be suspicious. So I literally just had to wait for him to get back that afternoon to view the little display that I'd created on the little dining table in the hotel room, and packet of poppy seeds because baby was the size of a poppy seed at the time, and baby socks and a best dad book. But it was, I do agree with you. It was a bit of not a non-event. I mean, I was stressed out massively all day and I was just felt like I was by myself and I couldn't wait for you to get back to the hotel. It maybe wasn't the initial reaction that you originally thought. Did you have any thoughts after, like obviously it marinated and like, we sort of went on with the weekend and you drank all my drinks and had a really wonderful time. And I think that,
feel like I was made for that moment. Like I really stepped up. I feel like I really stepped up in that moment.
You did. You took it for the family.
I did it for the family. But yeah, it was such a interesting time, like reflecting. Like I think when I found out, I've always wanted to be a dad. I've always wanted to be a dad ever since I could remember. So I was really excited about that. Probably dawned on me a little bit that I wasn't quite the man that I thought I should be as a dad, and kind of went on a bit of a journey of trying to maybe better myself in preparation for that. So it was kind of maybe a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe call it like a coming of age where I'm like, okay, it's, had a lot of fun over this last decade, and now I need to switch on, and I've got a little bub on the way, and just time to lock in a bit, I think.
You definitely went on. I remember you going on, and you've done this all 3 times. Gone on a bit of a health journey and had different hacks in your life that you changed, like, implementing your morning walks and, more recently implementing things like sauna and better eating, and you ended up losing 25 kilos during this whole period of time. Like obviously not all, in one unrealistic hit, but like the changes that you made to your lifestyle, I think were very impactful. So do you think, were those changes part of you knowing that you were going to become a dad and to like support me through that pregnancy journey?
I think so. Like I would have been 125 kilos or thereabouts when you fell pregnant. And that's just certainly not the man that I, wanted to be. Like, I couldn't remember the last time that I'd, gone for a run. Not that I run now, but that I'd done any like form of, strenuous exercise. I like given up at the gym, and it was kind of maybe just like the push that I needed to go, okay, yep, it's time to, like, I wasn't doing it for myself, but now that I can do it for someone else, now that's lit a fire in me a bit, I think. Yeah.
That's interesting. And it's funny because I suppose you probably watched me. Obviously, there's some forced lifestyle changes that come along with pregnancy and, watching what that sort of all does. And that's it. And you're doing it for somebody else. Like you're not, which is funny because sometimes it's easier to do something for somebody else than it is for yourself. And I was just so curious to know about what your mindset was during that period of time.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but it might have been like maybe, because it didn't happen overnight, it gradually came as the pregnancy kind of went. I think maybe once we got past like week, because at the start, it's all exciting, but it's like, oh, we've got to wait for this blood test and we've got to wait for this and we've got to get to 12 weeks and then we've got to get to, so up until I think maybe 12 weeks is when it kind of started to feel like, okay, this is happening. And I remember I had like a really big Saturday night, and I think we might have had something on the Sunday morning that I'd kind of like agreed to come along to, and I was just so hungover, and I think you end up going on your own, and I just couldn't move. And I remember thinking, right, So Katie has, she loves a drink just as much as I do, and she hasn't had a drink for 3 months, and here I am just getting like absolutely plastered. And I think that was maybe just another one of those sort of moments where I'm like, this sort of behavior is not something that I want to continue to this level, moving forward.
That's really honest. And thank you for saying that. I actually can't remember that situation. I don't remember when it was.
Just joking, never happened. Haha. Just kidding.
Well, lucky for you, that wasn't one of the things that I held on to for 6 months and then blew up at a time when I was in a bad mood. So thanks for sharing that now. I legitimately can't remember.
Now you can lock that in your arsenal and use later if you need to.
But yeah, that's it too. Like there's a different lens that you look at through, as a parent or becoming a parent, and there's certain things that that fall by the wayside over time, and it happens more and more the more kids you have, as you know. So, Jake, I think it would be interesting to hear from you. I guess you've sort of touched on it, but if you can go into a little bit more detail or tell us what was the main thing that you realized about yourself while I was pregnant with our daughter, with our first baby.
Well, as I mentioned, I always knew that I wanted to be a dad, but I think until it is on the horizon, you kind of just, I want to be a dad. But then as you were pregnant, I realized that I wanted to be a good dad. I didn't just want to be a dad, I wanted to be a really good dad. So that's probably something that I realized, and that then sort of feeds into, well, if I want to be a really good dad and I can't like run after my child, that's probably not like the makings of a really good dad. So yeah, that was sort of holistically, I was where my head was at. I want to be a good dad, and then trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. My dad was never around, so I kind of knew what not to be like as a father, but I just knew that I wanted to be a good father.
And that you are, Darl. You're wonderful.
Thanks, sweetie.
Despite what my earlier no, I'm kidding. I don't speak that badly of you. It's all in jest.
It's fine.
It's fine. Now, speaking of pregnancy and our relationship, I suppose is probably a double whammy question, but this is the bit I'm ready for all of this information to come back to me. So what do you remember to be the biggest moment in our relationship after we had our daughter? And what was your response? And what were your honest thoughts? All right, go for it.
How long we got? How much time we got?
Look, I think our listeners probably, I'm not going to give you a time limit. Just use your common sense.
Well, I think you've spoken about on the podcast about the bottle lid that broke the camel's back. I don't really know how to explain that time, other than just like what the fuck. Pretty confusing for me, I guess, is probably maybe the PG way to describe it. But essentially, you've got 4 bottles. Any parent out there knows you've got 4 bottles on the go at any point in time. Bottles come in 3 parts. You've got the bottle, you've got the lid, and you've got the teat, and then you've got the bottle lid. And a bottle lid went missing, and sparks flew, and fireworks erupted. And I just at me, because of this bottle lid, and I just couldn't quite understand. And it just took you a day or two to kind of really articulate. Like, you were able to tell me about an hour later why you were frustrated, and you were slamming, cupboards around for an hour until I could figure out that you were actually upset about the bottle lid. And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, of course. I hate bottle lids as well. But actually, kind of getting to the crux of, you were burning out and you needed more from me, but you didn't know how to ask for more from me. Have you spoken about like the list on the podcast?
Yeah, I was just about to say, so this segment appears in the Unrelenting Standards episode. So
right.
Where that you explained it absolutely correctly. I forgot about the slamming of the cupboards because I could swear that you couldn't hear me, and I thought, I'm just going to keep doing it.
I could feel you. I was upstairs sitting on the couch, and I could feel you. You would have been at least 30 meters away from me, and you just know. Blokes that are listening, don't you? You know.
You just know. I remember times after that where I'd be stomping around upstairs and I came down and you looked at me very gingerly and said, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm cleaning up the mess like I do every morning," or something in a snappy tone like that. And you're like, "Okay, see, you knew before I got there. You knew before I knew. I'm just stomping around." But yes, to answer your question, we to go into the details of the list, but to recap, so bottle lid goes missing, Katey has a conniption, Jake is the person that cops the full brunt and blame for this menial task that didn't need to be blown up in such an exaggerated way. I did spend about 2 days getting my thoughts together as to why did that bottle lid trigger me so badly, and how can I not do that again. I just can't be communicating with Jake like that. That's just, it's not fair. It's terrible for our relationship. He's not going to want to be around me much longer if this is how I'm going to handle things. So I ended up making the list of things that go on in a house in 24 hours. And I wrote down everything. So if you didn't listen to that episode, I'll give you a really quick update. It was everything. So take common things, take the bins out if they're full, replace the toilet paper if it's run out, the kitchen bench down at the end of the day. What else was there? I'll make sure all water vessels were full, which is still something Jake just cannot understand. And I thought it was because I grew up on a farm and we used to have blackouts. So it was important to always have a full kettle and a full, whatever you can put water in,
Yeah,
in
see,
it.
you don't know this, but I still come downstairs and tip out half the kettle before I put it on in the morning because it's stupid to boil that much water. Yes.
And I still get annoyed every morning when I'm like, oh, I'd love a cup of tea, but there's only about a centimetre left of water in that jug. I'm going to have to fill it up.
10 minutes to do the whole bloody jug. I need 150 ml for my coffee.
Now I know. Can't you use the steam machine?
Anyway, we'll take this offline.
Let's work out the logistics of your morning coffee and my morning tea. Oh
yeah,
my God, what a waste. Can you tell me answer one thing? When you tip out the kettle water, I know what the answer is, but I'm hoping you're going to answer it differently.
It's on the plants.
It is on the plants.
No, it's definitely not on the plants. It's down the sink.
For anybody not watching this, he just winked at the camera. Okay. Well, in future.
Hey, can we just stay this offline? I feel like we're going down a real rabbit hole.
This is a rabbit hole.
Actually,
we're both
guys,
triggered.
this is actually a live version of Katey getting triggered.
I haven't slammed anything yet, not even by accident.
Yeah, watch out for me after the podcast, people. Please, welfare checks. I think there was just a bit of a breakdown of communication, but potentially also the crux of it was Katey, for our whole relationship, Katey has always done most things around the house. I work a lot and work really hard, and so does Katey. Not to say that she doesn't, but I always did a lot of hours. And I always thought that Katey liked not to clean, because no one really likes to clean, but she likes things done a certain way, and she likes to have the house in a certain way. Like I'd go to work on a Saturday morning and say, honey, what are you doing today? And she's like, oh my God, I'm fapping. I just can't wait to clean out like a cupboard drawer and rearrange it. I could not think of anything fucking worse than cleaning out a cupboard and changing it around. So for all this time, Katey does she likes to cook. She does all the tidying around the house, all that stuff. But then when we had a baby, that wears thin. And I wasn't seeing that. This is the other thing as well, is that because Katey has such high levels of, we now call it unrelenting standards, which is also good to have a label for it, because before that it was just like, oh, why do you care so much about, like, who cares if that chair's, not 45 degrees? It can be 35 degrees for 5 minutes, can't it? So kind of good to have a label around it. But I would walk down the stairs and look around the room and actually think to myself, I should try and do something, try to help, look around, all the jobs are done. And then Katey would come down the stairs and she would have 5 jobs. And I'm like, oh, that's right. The bins, So actually getting it all documented was actually, for me, amazing, because now I could come downstairs and look at my list and go, there's 3 things on this list that haven't been done. I can do them. And now I know them.
Well, and that's it too. And it was a point of contention, because I was getting to a point where I felt like I was the manager, and my staff member would come to me at the end of every day and ask, is there anything that they could do? And as you said, Jake, it does wear very thin. And I had decision fatigue, because every parent has decision fatigue at some point, yourself included. And, then I'd be racking my brain like, oh, I know there's things that need to be done that are going to alleviate stress for the next day, but I can't think of them on the spot. So this list took away all of that for us, because Jake loves lists, and I love stuff getting done. And so he would just go and look at this list and be like, oh, okay, that's right. Oh, bins. Oh, fill up the kettle. Whether that gets done or not, we're not sure anymore. Make the bed, vacuum mop, all the standard stuff. So it was a life-saving list. And if you go back and listen to the Unrelenting Standards episode, it's got the full list in there. So if you need to write that down, ladies, pop it into ChatGPT, do something, save your marriage. Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend. Make a list.
Make a list.
Make a list.
It just helped everything. But yeah, it's like, and as well in that period of time, I think I clearly wasn't communicating properly. And Jake and I have always been really great communicators. Jake's a fantastic communicator. He does it for a job, for a business, and brings that home, and he's able to communicate really clearly with me and never, is able to diffuse me, which is a very unique talent in my opinion, because it's easy for me to fly off the handle. But to our communication, we had to relearn that, mostly had to relearn me, like put me back together and figure out, okay, well, how's she like to be communicated with, now, and how can Jake facilitate that, or what questions to ask at the right time? And it sounds complex, but I think the point is that I think most couples would experience this when you introduce a baby into the mix, or anything in a challenging situation. And if we had have let those things go and we hadn't addressed them in the moment or a couple of days later and actually come up with solutions, I honestly don't know like where we would be now in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. Like, you can just see how marriages can break down if you're not picking up these bits and pieces along the way and addressing things politely and kindly to one another, instead of walking around slamming doors for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that would have been less than ideal. Maybe the thing that's coming to mind now is, I think before we had kids, when you would be upset, you were maybe like a match, and I could just, put you out, or maybe a little bit of water. And then after having kids, maybe turning to a little bit of a sparkler. They're a bit harder to put out. And I think if we didn't address any of these issues, you would have turned into a flare, and that would have been no good.
Yeah, I could see myself just like catapulting off the roof, like into the sky, into my flare form, and just screaming out for help from someone. But no one ever knows where the flare is, so they can't actually help them. So it's that's
But
a good analogy.
also keeping in mind in that analogy that all those things need to be lit. And I was lighting. I'm the lightee in all of these scenarios, so it's not just a you thing.
Thanks. And that's what I mean. It takes two to tango, but I can't. There's only a certain, what we've become quite good at, I think, is there's only a certain amount of things you can legitimately blame on someone else. And the first place Jake goes is inward, and is always like, in any situation, what have I done? How could I have handled that differently? You're good at that. That's a really good trait of yours. It can also be hard because sometimes I'd be mad at something else, or I'm sleep deprived, or I don't know, something or someone else has impacted me.
Or just hormones. Those
Totally.
tricky buggers. Those tricky buggers.
Yeah, they come after you. They do.
Mm.
They really do, particularly postpartum. So if there's any tips in there for other couples out there that are having babies or major change in their life, have a list, check it twice, and then don't talk about it again.
Just a list without context, though, maybe not the best idea. So maybe talk about it before you have a list.
Yeah, actually, good idea.
Here are all the things that you are shit at. Whoa.
Yeah, it's not that kind of. Yeah, you're right. That's good. Yeah, good pick up there, Jake. This is not. I was going to say this is not financial advice. You've got to caveat that. This is not official relationship advice. But yeah, Jake knew the list was coming.
This is completely unfounded relationship advice. Please consult professionals before putting any of these tips and tricks into play. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay, all right.
Disclaimers have been had. That's good.
He's had enough of that one. Fair enough. Okay, this is a good one. Jake, what was the most ridiculous thing I said or did before, during, or after having our daughter?
Okay. I don't know whether you're going to love that I'm sharing this, but I'm going to share it because I think it's funny. It's funny now. We had some friends come over for dinner one night. This is after we had our daughter, and we were just, having this nice night. I think, but I'm pretty sure it was after we had our daughter, before you fell pregnant with our son, in that gap there.
So it's 4 months.
3 months, 4 months after. And we had our friends come over, And we don't see these guys that often. Like, they're good friends of ours. And we're just sort of sitting around the table and sort of chatting away, having a really nice night. And then my mate says, "Oh, Jake, what do you reckon you would be doing if it wasn't real estate?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I've always had like an inkling that I might be an actor. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe later in life, maybe in the next 5, 10 years, if I get sick of real estate, maybe I'll be an actor." We kind of talked about that for a very small amount of time, moved on, had a beautiful night. And then, like 4 hours later, when we go to bed, Katie's just off. And I don't know what's going on. And she gets into bed and then she just bursts into tears. And I'm like, "Well, what's happening, honey? What's wrong?" She's like, "You're going to become an actor and you're going to leave me. I just know it. I just know it. I just know it. You're going to fall in love with a famous actor and you're going to leave me. It's in my gut." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like,
What are you talking about? Oh my God. I
what?
remember that. That was funny. Not at
And
the
it's like,
time.
it's so hard because it was like 11 o'clock at night, like, or whatever time it was. And I'm like just about to, like, doze off. And now I've got to, have this very empathetic conversation with you about, no, I'm not going to leave you in 10 years for whoever the famous actor is at that point in time. And thank you for thinking that, like, believing me that I would be so famous if I was an actor. But it was just such a,
It's
like, this
it's a
crazy,
double-edged. Yeah,
ugh.
I know, and double-edged sword, right? Because you were sort of complimented by the fact that I thought you'd do really well at that, and that
Yeah,
I'd be so far out of your sights, and that you'd leave me with all our kids and all of this life, and that you'd get up and you'd leave and you'd become a famous actor, and then I'd be the loser wife back in, wherever, and then you'd end up with Julia Roberts, and then you'd have a whole other family, and then where would that leave me? And you wouldn't want to see your original kids because you have new kids with Julia Roberts, and you're in movies, so you've got no time to see your kids. Like, it was ridiculous where my thoughts went, and the fact that I shared them with you was
it
even
might
more
it,
ridiculous.
it might have been right around the time that Hugh Jackman left Deborah. Maybe that was the
Oh, yes, because we idolized them, and he would bring her a cup of tea in the morning every
and
morning, and you started
they
doing
read
that
each other
for
books.
me.
Mm,
Yes, they had such a nice relationship, and then I was in the postpartum window, and then they broke up, and then you're becoming an actor and leaving me, and it was just all too much.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my 10-year potential actor self.
Do you know
And
what? And I think I went on to later say, if you do pursue an acting career, like, can you just take us all with you?
can you can I just
We don't
come?
have to do it. Yeah,
All I want to do is come. If you want to
I
go to
just want to
US,
be
I'll
there.
come with you. I'll just be with you. I'll be there. Can you bring me?
Yeah, and I'm
I, s-
gonna
I s-
bring the
yeah.
kids. Don't forget about your original family because we were
Yeah,
here first.
oh my God. I said maybe I might think potentially about doing an acting class.
No, that's got to go on the different list, which is things you don't say to postpartum women. So basically, just don't say
Oh
anything
yeah.
because you can't win.
Do not talk about any form of career change with your postpartum wife. Just everything the same. Everything the
Everybody,
same.
everybody must remain the same. Yes, I know. Oh, thanks for sharing that, doll. On yet
Well,
another thing I've forgotten about / buried deep in my archives
deep
for very
deep
good
into
reason.
deep into the psyche.
Yeah. It'll come out again in 6 months' time when something
Yeah,
else
too.
happens.
Yeah.
Next question is, what was the biggest transition for you? Getting married, finding out I was pregnant / the pregnancy, having our daughter, or having, this is a lot of variables, this is a very long question, sorry,
Yeah.
or having 2 kids under 13 months old, or finding out I wanted to have a third baby. So yeah, what was the, obviously we are having a third baby because
Sorry, can you repeat the question? No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
The biggest transition, without a doubt, was going from 1 to 2 kids. Yeah, like hands down for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
And why?
Um,
What about that?
just the workload. It doesn't double, it triples. Like, it's just when we had our daughter, it was for us. It was like easy street. We were like, what? Like, here it's like so crazy to have a kid, and like we were just like living the Vita Loca. Like, our daughter was like sleeping like 18 hours a day, and it just like everything just felt really good. And you give her a hug, or you pop her in the bouncer, or you pop her on the ground, or whatever on a mat, and have a play, and then you can get up and go and do other things and start ticking things off the list and the house jobs, like all that stuff. It's easy to do. But then after we had our son, or when we had our son, our daughter still wasn't walking. So we've gone into this transition of like when your child starts walking, it's like, it's like opening up a different part of the map. It's like, oh my God, like there's all these things all these drawers they can pull. Oh my God, we got to get our knife collection out of the bottom drawer. I can't sit in there anymore. You go through all that process.
And you know how I don't like moving things around? Oh, I do like moving things around, but once they have a place, they can't get out of that place.
Yeah.
We never kept knives in the bottom drawers.
I know that
It's common sense.
That was a joke. But I just mean like just a lot was happening all at once. For me, that was the pull to need to be home more, because when it was just our daughter, like at the time she was sleeping for 2 or 3 hours during the day. So you've got one kid sleeping, which means that you can rest and do all the things that need to be done. But when you got two, we're lucky to get a double nap during the day, and even if we do get a double nap, it's usually only for 1 hour. And then outside of that, you're entertaining two kids that they both need stuff, and they both have different attitudes and moods, and one might be good and one might be bad, and they both might be bad, they both might be good. Like it's just, yeah, that was definitely the biggest transition.
I have heard that 2 is like 10. I think that, I mean, not that anybody asked me, but I think my biggest transition was from 0 to 1. And I don't know if that was just because of pregnancy and birth and postpartum, because that was like obviously physical, emotional, mental experience that I was not prepared for at all. And going from having no baby to having baby was huge. And then, like you said, like we got so excited. We're like, oh my God, this baby is amazing. Like she sleeps, she eats, she poops, she goes in the bath. Like, how good. Let's have another one. So we did. But it's...
What legends. Such legends. Good call. Great call.
And because of the style of the nature of your work as well, and just you, like I can see you climbing the walls whenever you're here too. I'm feeling that pull to be here so much. And same for me. I don't think I've left the house for 3 years, but having that extra pressure of, yeah, and particularly now, I don't know if you find this now, but I definitely do. Like skip forward there, our daughter's 2.5, our son's nearly 1.5, 2 different personalities. They're both toddlers, so they're both walking now, and we're about to introduce a new baby. So good luck to us. But it's very difficult to manage. Sometimes it's great because they entertain one another. Other times it can be really difficult because one's yelling at the other one to set the other one off.
They antagonize each other.
Yes. Typical siblings, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Next question, Jake. What's the biggest thing you've had to change since becoming a dad?
I have 2 answers to this question. The first is I realize I can't be 100% to everybody anymore. I used to put 100, 110% into my work, and really everything that I did really revolved around feeling like I need to be everything to every single client, and be at every single open home, and be at every single little interaction. I needed to be there and be in control. And even with our relationship, I feel like I could be 100, 110% giving everything I can to that. And I've just realized that after having kids, you can't be 100% to all parts of your life, because you're just going to burn out. So I wrestled with that for quite some time, where, if I was being 100% to work, then I was only being 40%, at home or to the kids. And if I was being 100% at home, then I was only being 40% to work, and vice versa. So I've now gotten to a spot where my headspace is I'm trying to be 80 for everyone. I'm trying to be 80% for everything that's important to me in my life. I'm trying to be 80% for the kids. I'm trying to be 80% for you. I'm trying to be 80% for work. I'm trying to be 80% for my friends. I'm trying to be 80% for my mum. If I can hold that level, and for me that is manageable and it's attainable, and I can hold it there, and that's just kind of where my headspace is. So I'm never going to be 100 for everybody, but if I can be 80 for everybody, then most people are getting the good side of me.
I love that. I think that when I heard you explain, I can't remember if you were explaining it in a work situation or you were having a conversation, and you relayed that to me. And I thought that's such a nice perspective, like to look through that lens. And 80% is still good, and 80% of Jay is a decent amount. Like your energy, your passion for life and for everything that you include and do. So it's kind of like the situation that I explained to you where I bumped into a good mutual friend of ours in the supermarket a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, how's Jake going?" And I said, "Jake, he's going really good." I said, "The way he's explaining things at the moment is that he's sort of 80% to everyone. Like, he's 80% to me, he's 80% to the kids, 80% to work, his clients, his friends, blah, blah, blah." And she just goes, 100% of Jake. That's a lot. He could probably cut it back to like 60 and he'd probably still be quite fine. I was like, that's a great way to think about it. I thought, yeah, even if he did drop down to 60, like keep his standard at 80, but if it dropped down to 60, that's plenty. Like, honestly, 60's fine. Keep it there, Dal.
Speaking of percentages, unfortunately, my phone battery is now saying it's 5% battery. So
Oh, good.
unfortunately, I couldn't keep my phone at 80 today. So that's okay. That's room for improvement.
And also, Jake knew we were recording this podcast 3 weeks ago because I put it in his calendar, because that's also how we communicate. Anyway, he's forgotten the phone charger. Anyway, it's fine. These are semantics. Doesn't matter.
I think this is a podcast error, not my error. Anyways.
Okay. Well, luckily for our listeners and for our relationship, I'm up to our very last question for this podcast. So, Jake, if you had one bit of advice to give to new parents, what would it be and why? And in this segment, please feel free to talk to like the mums that might be listening, and in ways that they might be able to communicate better with their partners.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a statement rather than advice. But I think when you have a child, you gain so much. Like you have this little person that you've created with the person you love the most, and you just gain a countless amount of amazing things with that. But the flip side is that you actually lose some things, and that's okay. But you do lose some things. So an example of that is you lose just you two, like just going from it's just us to it's the three of us. And you also lose a bit of your self freedom to a degree, because you now have someone that relies on you wholeheartedly. And I think it's just finding the space to acknowledge that and still have those parts of your life live on to a degree. It sounds a bit negative, but it's just, how do we find space for just us? And how can we work with each other to give each other snippets of alone time, and it be okay, and it not be, oh, you're going doing that, you're going like, and finding space. And I know we've spoken about, or you've probably spoken about the 24 hours off. That was, a really good idea that you came up with, Katey, that just meant that we could do some of that stuff guilt-free. And I think, we went out for, I think it was, our daughter was 2 weeks old. We went out for a date, went to Akita, I think it was. We went out for dinner. And just, that's okay. And, not everyone can do that if you haven't got, close family and friends or, whoever around. But just finding the space for those relationships, because they're important.
I think that's great. And I do think that's advice. I think, it's a nice reminder, because it was something that you and I struggled with for a while. Like, obviously, yes, we did get out on that early date, and we were very diligent with after we'd had our daughter, and obviously things became a little more tricky during a second pregnancy, and then a second baby, and now a third pregnancy and the incoming third baby. But having, allowing each other that time to have that space and not feel guilty about it, and sort of giving each other the permission to recognize, okay, you need a break. And it's also, I find as well, which I've spoken about, the 24 hours off. Sometimes it's the lead up to it that I enjoy more than the actual 24 hours off itself, because I know that I've got that date coming up. I know that you're covering the kids for that amount of time, and I can book things in and do some normal adult stuff, like go to Coles, because that's the thing I love to do the most. But it's not like it's like my way out. It's like my, okay, well, I've got that day to look forward to. All right, well, I've only got to fill in, a couple more days of activities for the kids, or, I've only got these few work meetings left before I can get to X. It's like the lead up to a holiday. Being able to create that space for one another has been an absolute lifesaver. So thank you for pointing that out.
My pleasure.
So I think that's probably enough questions for today. We'll record with Jake again because I think it's very nice to hear from his perspective on certain things that I've spoken about or experienced in the past, and to hear what he has to say and what his general wrap up is. But Jake, is there anything you would like to say to our listeners or to me before we wrap this episode?
I just want to thank my fans out there. I really appreciate your support.
Dal, I barely have
No.
any fans. This is your first. I've done 15 episodes.
Oh, that's right.
This
It's
is
hard
your
to have
first
fans.
one.
It's hard to have fans without actually doing anything. That's true. Thanks for having me on the show, darling. And keep doing what you're doing. It's a really cool movement that you're embarking on, and I've really enjoyed watching you flourish in this space. And just put yourself out there and speak from the heart, and shit can me a little bit on the way. It's all part of it. So
that's probably one of the nicest things you've ever said to me, and someone has to be the butt of my joke. I'm sorry, it's just going to have to be you for a little while longer. But thank you for your support. Thank you very much for your support, Dal. I really appreciate it. All right, ladies and gents, because I'm sure we had some gents tune into this episode to listen to a male's perspective on the female brain to some degree. So thank you for listening. Hopefully you found some nuggets of gold in this episode, and we will see you on the next episode of The Wing. Bye-bye.